The next section that we will be going over is the college coursework section. So this can be found under the second quadrant in academic history, and it'll be this fourth option here that says college coursework. So make sure to read the instructions listed here very carefully. It will give you information about how you go through this section of the application. But I am going to just show you a few examples of how you would report your coursework. So one thing that I definitely recommend is to have transcripts, either unofficial or official copies are fine, from all the schools and institutions that you've attended so that you can make sure you are copying your coursework exactly how it appears on your transcript. So rather than trying to do it by memory or from what maybe your counselor had told you, it's best to have a physical copy of your record in front of you so you can just go ahead and copy it line for line. So when you are entering coursework at a campus, you have to click edit if you've already kind of entered maybe some classes, or if you haven't entered any courses at all, you just want to go in and start adding them. So in this example, I want to show a few things that I have done here. So if you have done any sort of dual enrollment at a college, or maybe you took some classes in high school through a community college or university, you want to make sure you're starting with that first semester that you ever took courses there. So in this example, I indicated that I took a math course when I was in the spring 2021 semester, and this is when I was dual enrolled as a high school student. So you want to make sure you're thinking about all of the classes that you might have taken at this institution. So you can see that I have reported that here. Now, I also want to show an example of what a repeated course would look like on the application. So you can see here that I have two different semesters where I've entered an Economics 120 course. So in this fall 2024 semester and in the spring 2025 semester. You can see in this first entry here that I reported the grade as RP. So what that means is that this course, which originally you had failed, and then if you repeat it and you pass the course, this first attempt is considered a repeat. So that means that the school is not going to be counting that original F or D grade that you received as part of your overall GPA calculation. So if that is specifically indicated on your transcript, you want to make sure you report that grade as RP on your application. So this means that we will not be calculating that failed grade into your overall CSU GPA calculation because you repeated the course and you ended up passing it and receiving a B grade. So this is important to note because you want to make sure you're checking your transcript for that notation of a repeat. And then I do also want to show an example of how you actually add a course. So this is going to be kind of a unique example as well. If you took, for example, a communication course, but you ended up withdrawing from the class for whatever reason, maybe there was personal circumstances, so your transcript shows it as a W. You still want to report any grade that shows up on your transcript, even if it shows up as a W or something else. You want to basically copy your transcript exactly as it shows, like I mentioned earlier. So these classes are still also marked transferable because the course itself is still transferable units. You just didn't receive a letter grade. So you want to go ahead and mark that as a W or however it's listed on your transcript. So that is an important thing to remember. Now, one thing about repeats I also want to mention is you can only indicate that failed grade as an RP if the repeat has already been completed. So, for example, if you failed a class maybe last spring and you are looking to repeat it next spring in a future term, or even if you're taking it now in the fall semester, the repeat has not been completed yet. So we cannot award you that RP grade, or you can't exclude that grade from your GPA if you haven't yet passed it for the second time. So you can only use this RP process if you have both grades and both courses completed, the original failed grade, and then the repeat has already been taken and passed as well. I want to also show an example of what it looks like to report coursework at a school that doesn't have a drop-down menu. So you saw on that other campus when I was reporting classes at Mesa College, there was a list of courses that popped up and the course title and the credits automatically populated. In this example, if I try to type, for example, an art course, you can see that nothing is showing up. There's no drop-down menu populating, so I can't choose the title of the course. So what you want to do is just actually manually type the class as it shows up on your transcript. So if we type beginning art, for example, you also have to enter the number of credits and then the grade that you earned. If the grade is indicated as a B plus on your transcript, for example, make sure you also add those plus or minus signs depending on how your school has it listed. So this is just an example that you have to manually enter this information if you're not coming from a California community college, because those schools will have the courses coming from a drop-down list, but a lot of out-of-state universities or other private institutions won't typically have that option. The last thing to look at is this transferable box here. You'll see that it's not automatically checking off. So if you are entering coursework from an out-of-state school, for example, and it is baccalaureate level coursework, it's from an accredited institution, you should be checking off those classes as transferable. So you want to make sure you're checking that off, because if you do not indicate that you have taken 60 or more transferable units by the end of next spring prior to transferring, it may be indicated to us that you're not actually eligible to transfer, even if you are. So that's why it's really important to make sure you're checking all of that self-reported data accurately, so that we can accurately also review your academic record. So once you are done entering all your classes, you just want to save the section, and then you can go ahead and see a list of all your classes here. Once you're done adding all your courses, you can go ahead and just say yes that you have completed entering all your transcripts, and then you can go ahead and click save, and it will check off that section and allow you to move on to the next area of the application. If you do have any questions about this process, please feel free to reach out to your counselors at your current institution or reach out to admissions here at SDSU. We can be sure to assist you with your questions.